Hey everyone, it's Betty Louise, or Coach Betty. I'm the host of Green Think Internet Radio, and you're about to hear an excerpt from one of my interviews. Please check out the full show at womenonair.biz. That's www.womenonair.biz. Hope you enjoy it.
I want you to paint the picture of what you wrote about in your book about these present trends and the 4 threats of why we need to really be paying attention in some different ways. So would you take a couple minutes to do that?
Sure. The 4 big threats, I'll just outline them briefly and go in a little more detail. The first is the bio threat, or the eco threat. What that involves is the challenges that our world are facing in terms of global climate change, the natural systems of the planet that support life as we know it. For example,
it's like the eco thing that we've got to take care of the environment, all that's going on there. But go ahead, give me the example.
Okay, the examples, for instance, in the oceans, 11 of 15 of the world's fisheries in the oceans are either in collapse or on the verge of collapse. And it's projected that within 3 decades that all of the world's remaining ocean fisheries will be dead if we don't do something about it. And so we're also cutting down the rainforest. It's estimated that within the lifetime of ourselves or our children that there won't be any rainforest left except for protected areas. And people say, well, okay, oceans, rainforests, whatever. These are systems that are part of the world that
keep the environment in balance. Right?
It's balance. If we collapse these systems, we collapse the planet. It's like the Titanic hitting the iceberg and going down. And it won't matter if you're in first class, America, third world. It won't matter. You'll go down if we take the planet down.
Yeah.
That's a huge threat.
I know. And we really don't give it enough weight. And I bet you could go on and keep talking about all the different ones. But talk about the next threat.
The next threat is the peak oil threat. See, all of the world's major oil fields now are in decline, meaning they've passed their prime. They're producing at lower and lower rates than they used to produce at. The amount that they're declining at just blew away the people, the insiders in the industry. Last year they did an exhaustive study, found they're depleting in the world at about 9% per year. Now what does that mean? That means that if we're going to keep producing oil just the way we are today in our world, we'd have to find and develop a full Saudi Arabia-sized amount of oil every year or two from now to eternity, and that isn't going to happen.
Right, we've just got to stop and take a look at that kind of information and how we're using oil.
Okay, the number 3 threat, I call that the bio threat. And what we're doing in our world right now is we're feeding antibiotics to our factory farm animals, the chickens, the cows, the pigs. And by feeding them antibiotics, those animals become factories for growing superbugs, antibiotic-resistant bugs. Plus, when you and I go out to Safeway or wherever, someplace that's non-organic meat, and we eat that meat, then we're ingesting small amounts of antibiotics through the meat we eat. And then our own bodies start developing more antibiotic-resistant bugs. For example, a month ago, Miss Brazil, this incredibly beautiful woman who was in the top 5 finalists in the Miss World pageant just a few months back, a month ago she went into the hospital with an infection. They pumped her full of antibiotics. Those didn't work. They upped it to the most serious antibiotics they had. Those didn't work. They amputated her hands and feet in an attempt to save her life. That didn't work, and she died anyways. So what we need to be worried about and concerned about is antibiotic-resistant superbugs like extreme drug-resistant tuberculosis, the guy they flew a private jet to escort last summer.
Mm-hmm.
Those things and viruses that can gene swap and become, turn something like a bird flu into a super pandemic. Hasn't happened in recent history, but it happened in the earlier part of the century. Now, there's lots of alternative things. I'm not just trying to freak you out, but I'm saying wake up, open your eyes, because you can have a bunch of alternative medicines and herbs like colloidal silver, grapefruit seed extract, oregano oil.
Right.
You have these things in your in your home. You get used to using them. So when that superbug comes along and no pharmaceutical in the world is working against it, you have things that are very effective against it. They're just not patented, so they're not pushed by the doctors and the pharmacy companies because there's no money to be made in these things. But they work. They work.
So, okay, we've got the Eco Threat, the Peak Oil, the Bio Threat, and what's number 4?
If you like what you've heard and want to get more information about how to be green, sustainable, conscious, check out womenonair.biz. That's www.womenonair.biz. Stay tuned.